Hi, everybody. I'm Chris Preimesberger, editor of eWEEK. Thanks for joining us today for this latest session of eWEEK eSPEAKS, our IT thought leader series of conversations. And today's guest is eWEEK's one of eWEEK's top writers. Covers a lot of different topics for us, networking and chips and a lot of other things. Zeus Kerravala. Welcome, Zeus.
Yeah, thanks, Chris. I've been filling in to you as a host of eWEEK eSpeaks, and so it's nice to be back on this side of the chair.
Yeah, I know. You bounce around from host to guest to host to guest. It doesn't matter. You can handle it all. And I'm glad you can. So thanks for spending some time today with us. I appreciate it. I see by your background that you were recently at a Webex conference, and there's a lot of news coming out of that. Could you give us maybe the highlights of what you remember and what you saw?
Yeah, no, and clearly I was at the Webex One event that was held yesterday and today. It was a pretty fun event as far as virtual events goes. And this is a group. Webex is kind of an interesting group within Cisco. The pandemic came and it gave rise to a whole bunch of upstart and new companies in the collaboration space. And Cisco got boxed in. The perception is that the technology gotten a bit long in the tooth and nobody wanted to use it. Well, first of all, that's not true. It's used by the big companies that security first use Webex. But admittedly, the GM of the group, Javed Khan, he did admit that they did have to catch up with features, and done that. They're going to step on the gas and roll out new features. Now, you have to understand from a Cisco perspective, back in June at their Cisco Live event, Chuck Robbins, their CEO, came up with a new mission statement for Cisco, and that's the power and inclusive future for all. Now, Webex is obviously an important part of that, right? So to power an inclusive future, we need to democratize the ability for people to communicate, for people to learn, to people to work. And so the ability to do that virtually becomes important. Now, Webex itself, has a certain set of tools, but the company is striving to make, in fact, Jeetu Patel, the SVP of applications and security, said it best, where the goal of the vision of Webex is to be 10x better than an in-person meeting. And you might think, well, how is that possible? How can we've all held the in-person meeting to be the gold standard of meetings. How is it possible that you could have a virtual meeting be 10x better than in person? Well, that comes in the form of a lot of the AI features that make what we're doing easier and actually take care of a lot of things that are challenging in in-person meetings. And so, for example, just a very basic example is the ability to have closed captioning and transcription technologies, right? So a lot of times if I'm in a meeting and in a live meeting and I miss what somebody said, there's no way to hit the rewind button in a live meeting and find out what they said. Well, with closed caption and transcriptions, I can do that. I can look back, I can look forward, or I can't look forward, but I can look back and then I can replay things, I can highlight things, I can take notes. But that ability to transcribe actually saves me from having to take a bunch of notes. And so in meetings, you're often, left with that conundrum of, do I take notes or do I pay attention? Well, now you don't have to take the notes because the transcription engine is doing it for you. He also added a capability, and they're called noise cancellation from a company called Babel Labs, in which it'll actually zip out background noise. And so we've all been in the meeting where you get the loud typer, you get the person eating potato chips, you're working at home and you get the lawnmower behind you, and then nobody can hear what you're doing, right? So now with this Babel Labs technology, it automatically zips it out. And that creates some interesting potential to be able to use Webex in places where you've never done before. Like, for instance, sometimes when coffee shops are open, I would go work in a Starbucks, but the background noise was so loud that I couldn't do Webex calls, but now I can. So that's kind of cool. On the theme of powering that inclusive future, they did roll out a number of interesting features that do that. So for instance, there's something called gesturing, right? And Javed Khan, the GM of the collaboration group, said he got this idea from watching his kids trying to attend school, where the teacher says, raise your hand. Now, raise your hand when you're in school means do this, right? On this type of interaction, it means click the icon that says raise hand, right? If you put a thumbs up, I've got to click the icon that says thumbs up. So now the camera will recognize that I have my hand up and it'll click that raise hand icon for me. And so from an inclusivity perspective, people that may be a little more timid or didn't really understand the interface, couldn't attend. And so that allows them to do that. And so, there's many, many more features. I think There's another pretty interesting feature called immersive sharing, in which, if you were to do a PowerPoint on this, right now, Chris, what would happen is the PowerPoint would be large and you would be small. But sometimes you want to see the speaker and the PowerPoint, right? Like when you're on a stage, you've got a big screen that shows your PowerPoint, and then you got the speaker walking around. Well, now with immersive sharing, the person is big and then the PowerPoint is superimposed on top, or vice versa. And so you want to put that view of both really great. So that's good we're doing more and more presentations and things over this. Another kind of interesting inclusivity feature is a new feature they have called meeting layouts, or meeting templates, sorry, in which you can actually set up things like roundtable formats and things. So if you're in an organization where you've got a couple of people that tend to dominate conversations, those introverts often don't get a thing to say. Like, I've been accused of being one of those people that dominate conversations. And so with the meeting template, you can actually set up a roundtable where everybody gets equal time. And so again, from an inclusivity perspective, that helps. I think one of the big things they rolled out too was their cloud contact center. Cloud contact center is becoming a more important part of collaboration. It's something that Cisco is behind on. Omar Takawal, the GM of that group, said they didn't want to rush that product to market by doing a simple lift and shift of their private cloud product, like so many vendors have done. They actually built this from the ground up to be cloud native, and that's going to allow them to have a lot more feature velocity. So this is something that Cisco's been working on for a couple of years, and from what I've seen, it's a pretty good product, and I think they're going to have a lot of success with it. So there was many more announcements. I've been to Cisco collaboration summits before, and I can say that this is the collaboration event that I've been to from Cisco where I've seen the most features rolled out. This company has been on a mission, not just to catch up, but to lead the industry. And from where I sit, they certainly look like they're doing that.
Wow, yeah, those are impressive. And in fact, as a user, I didn't know about some of these features.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
I'm wondering if a lot of other people don't know about them either.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, Chris, and that's a challenge for the whole industry. I've talked to a lot of users that have no idea that some of these features even exist. It's like, well, if you've got a messy background, turn on background blur, put a virtual background up, and people say, I had no idea how I could even do that, right? And I think from a Cisco perspective, and really not just Cisco, but the whole industry, they have to find a way to help users understand better what's coming. Like, for example, when you download a new operating system for your iPhone, right? The first thing that happens when you reboot is you get this wizard that comes up and says, hey, did you know your iPhone now has, dark mode, and it has widgets for your home screen and things like that. And so I think from a collaboration vendor perspective, you're going to see every collaboration vendor come up with new features much faster than before, because they're all moving to the cloud platforms. And the winners and losers will be dictated by how fast they're able to help customers understand what features are there. Because some of these features, they're just tremendous, and they help me do my job a lot easier. But if I don't know about them, I'm never going to use them.
Yeah. I'm wondering, how about the competition from Zoom? Zoom has got such a huge influx of users this year alone due to the COVID, and it's very simple to use. Is Webex as simple to use as Zoom? I think it is, isn't it?
Yeah, that's been a challenge for Cisco, is getting people to the newest version of Webex. So some of the older versions weren't. Cisco has never been one click, but they're 2 clicks. So I don't know, on one position you can say it's 100% more clicks, or you can just say it's one more click. But the extra click is there for security perspectives, right? They do want to make it more secure, and they talk about security being a basic human right. And so it is very easy to use. And I think, even if you look across the spectrum of the vendors, Ring Central, Avaya Spaces, they're all easy to use now. So I don't think easy to use is really a differentiator. I think where the differentiator is going to come from is a lot of these advanced AI capabilities. Do they become so easy to use that the user doesn't even know it's there, right? So for instance, like that noise cancellation. Well, I shouldn't have to wait for noise, have somebody, you say to me, I can't hear you, then I go look to turn it on. It should just recognize it's there and turn itself on. Same with that gesturing technology, right? I shouldn't have to turn that on. It should just know it's there. And so the next wave of ease of use is going to be not just joining, but when I'm in the system, I can take full advantage of it without really having to do a lot more work.
Right. So I guess we'll be covering this a little closer and more deeply in eWEEK itself, right? With the story.
Yeah, in fact, I think this battle that's going on between all the different collaboration vendors, the big winner of this is actually the customer, because in a market, it's fair to say I've been covering communications for a long time. We went through a long period of time where there wasn't a whole lot of innovation going on, but the rise of the Zooms and Rings and companies like that has created a bunch of new vendors in the market that have put some competitive pressure on these bigger companies. And so now you're going to see, customers are going to see more features, more innovation happen faster, and that's good for everybody.
Yeah, that's pretty much the top of it then, I guess, Zeus.
Yeah.
Thank you for that insight and for being specific about those new product features, because I'm going to, next time I use Webex, I'm going to take a look at those and see if I can use them too. I mean, the voice transcription thing is great for reporters and lawyers and insurance people and all kinds.
Yeah, I don't do a meeting now where I don't have transcription on, because it's it helps me interview people, remember what they said. In fact, if you look at my Twitter feed, I quote a lot of people now from interviews that I have, and the only way I can do that is from the transcription. I'll tell you something, transcription alone has been a game changer in meetings, and now just multiply that out by orders of magnitude, right?
Yeah, no question about it. Zeus Kerravala, writer for eWEEK and head of ZK Research. Thank you again very much.
Thank you.
Okay, and for all of you following along to the end here, thank you very much. Have a great rest of your eWEEK. Thanks for joining us on eWEEK eSpeaks. Go to eWEEK.com to hear more conversations with IT thought leaders.